Hello, everybody, and welcome to our final part of Day 1 coverage here at the second annual Dogman and Cryptid Conference in White Settlement, Texas, brought to you by the Paranormal Round Table. We are here with the indomitable and amazing Ron Moorehead. Welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Thank you, Chris.
I am so excited to have you on. Probably one of the first times that I ever heard Bigfoot whoops and calls was on Coast to Coast AM many, many moons ago with the Sierra Sounds. And you of course, have lived in fame in many circles and infamy in some because of the Sierra Sounds.
You're too kind.
Well, I mean, really, it was, and I think still is, a very groundbreaking field. The idea of animal calls, the idea of Sasquatch calls in particular, and to hear that we are now going to be able to leverage the world of AI in this research to be able to
Good point.
basically use AI to listen to wildlife calls and go, well, let's compare it to an entire database in that amount of time. Pretty incredible, pretty awesome. How did you come into the world of Bigfoot research and cryptid research to begin with?
Well, not on purpose. I was in a remote hunting camp. Some guys that had invited me in. Actually, one of the guys got scared off and he wouldn't go back, so I went back with him. He wanted to go back and see if everybody was all right because they didn't know what they were dealing with at the time, and he wouldn't go back by himself. Just a little freaky the sounds were. And so anyway, that's how I got involved. I started going up as often as I could. I got considered part of the group then. I was friends with them all, but I wasn't a hunter at the time. But then I started going up there and hunting with them, and we started experiencing this stuff year after year. And anyway, I didn't realize how significant it was until days like this, you know, when people are really interested in it.
Yeah. And once again, to see the field now get to the point of folks like Jeff Melgrim being involved, you know, actual primatologists, things like that. It's fantastic to see that there is a group of researchers out there that is really heavily looking into the physical possibility of a large hominid ape in America.
Well, yeah, they are large. They are hominoids. And but I got some information I think is more relevant.
Please.
We've had the studies done that shows the sounds were not manipulated, and it is a language by the human definition of language, which is unique. It's not just a call or a scream. It's an actual chatter between them. Same thing that John Green reported years ago when he interviewed Albert Ostman from Canada. And you got that going. He represented, according to a sound engineer, he did a year-long study, Dr. Curlin, and he said they represented an animal over 8 foot tall compared to the human vocal mechanism, and there was not manipulated, not played one way or the other backwards or nothing like that. And you got a cryptolinguist who studied as a cryptolinguist for the military, the Navy, and he listened to them, and he came out and interviewed us to find out the context because he heard a language in there, which is critically important because only humans, according to Dr. Liebman at Brown University, have the vocal mechanism for sapient language. These things have that. That puts it to me, they have a human component to them. And so some of them, I'm only talking about the ones I dealt with, which we dealt with them for quite a while up there. And it's hard to get people to understand just everything we went through, but there was some really strange anomalies that was associated with them. Lights, just unusual things, not just their vocalizations, but strange stuff. And one of the guys who went in to investigate, which we invited, was Alan Berry. He was a master's degree in science, and he said, don't talk about the strange stuff up here. You're going to get in trouble. So we didn't for a long time. He said, you got to stay with science, Well, it has to be an answer to everything. So when you see or hear sounds going on outside the little shelter we were in, thinking the whole camp's being torn apart, and you look out there, nothing's changed, how do you answer that with classical science? You can't, you know, it's something. Were they hypnotizing us all? Because we all heard it. And a lot of other things, too, besides that. And so anyway, it got me into the study of quantum science. And I know a lot of the doctors that are studying the classical science way, and that's fine because the parameters that they're trained in is classical science. And that's where I draw the line. I'm not in that line of box of classical science because things are outside of that box. So it took me into quantum science, which is the Max Planck, who got the Nobel Prize in 1918 for quantum mechanics. And you got Einstein, you got Tesla chiming in on this stuff and everything. what Tesla says, well, one man calls God, another one calls quantum science.
Yeah.
So you got that. They're synonymous. Quantum science and spirituality are synonymous. And that's where a lot of people, I think, and that's what the title of one of my books is, bringing science and spirituality back together, because those guys studied the Veda, they studied science, and they studied spirituality too, and so
Yeah.
that's how it kind of began with me and how it goes on. I've been in Nepal and into Russia. I spoke at the Darwin Museum there with Meldrum and
Wow.
Dr. Bindernagel years ago. And they won't get into quantum physics because that's not their
Yeah.
parameters. The parameters are drawn. So I'm not a physicist, but I studied that now for years and years, and there's a lot of science behind everything that's been happening. And that's why, that's why this stuff is so popular, and that's why so many people are coming out now of the woodwork and reporting strange stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and even this morning to hear Josh talking about Dogman specifically and how it may be a manifestation of sorts, and as even one of the things that we postulate on this show regularly, whether you're talking a CE5 alien contact experience, whether you're talking Bigfoot, Dogman, or whether you're talking going and investigating a haunted house, are we and our expectation of the experience charging that moment or that location before we ever get there?
Good point.
Before we ever get there.
Because we create our reality. Whatever you find, whatever you're looking for, you find. However,
you were looking for nothing.
Good point.
Yeah.
But you hear people say, well, it disappeared right in front of my eyes.
Yes.
You hear about these trackways stopping where it doesn't make any sense where to go,
Yeah.
It happened to me.
Well, even the very famous now skunk ape footage where you see it just boop and it's gone.
Okay, 1933, Dr. Paul Dirac won the Nobel Prize for antimatter. Get into antimatter, it's the direct exchange between matter and energy, established by CERN in Switzerland in 2012, when a particle changes into energy. So matter and energy are interchangeable.
Yes.
And that's Einstein. Everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. You get into the vibration of anything, you can change its matter. You get on the right frequency. So that's where I go with my studies, that's where I go with my talks, that's where I go with my books.
Absolutely. And that is a topic that we talk about regularly, Ron, on this show, is the fact of I'm a comic book freak. So the example I always give is the Flash.
There you go.
And his phasing ability, where it's like, oh, well, there's somebody stuck inside of the steel, bank vault. Let me phase through the wall, and he matches his, atoms with the same speed as the bank vault, and he just passes through.
That's energy.
Same thing, like that. That is actual physics. I'd love to say it's not, but
it is.
By all physics, Ron, we aren't even here. By all physics that we learned in ninth grade.
We're an illusion.
We're 90% empty space.
Because we're all trained in classical science, 1687 Newtonian physics, and there's more going on than Newtonian physics.
That's right.
We only see within 430 and 770 terahertz. That's our light frequency.
That's right.
All these other frequencies are out there that we don't see.
Yeah.
We don't hear like a dog here. We don't hear an infrasound or ultrasound. We don't smell. Our olfactory sense is not like a bear's. It's 20 times better than ours.
Yeah.
And you realize your human components, what we are, and your human limitations, and you realize there's more going on than what meets our eye, our three-dimensional eye, and there's more dimensions going on. So
well, and even more colors. Even more colors. People don't realize that we just had a tetrachromic on 3 weeks ago at the International Remote Viewing Association. People don't realize there are people who see red, green, blue, and yellow. Like parrots, and like they have they have literally another million colors that they can see. Imagine what the world looks like to them.
Well, when a sound frequency gets to its 40th octave, it'll turn into...
I'm an audio engineer. Hold on, let me enjoy this. Talk.
Sound, when it reaches the 40th octave, will turn into color.
That's right.
That's
right.
You get all that stuff going together.
Well, and we bring that up regularly on the show, and this is typically where I would go to my graphics machine and show the electromagnetic spectrum and show the fact that, what we see in here is in the same slice. It's in the same slice. Yeah. The color red, I've got a chakra album right over here that I made. Red is a tone.
Yeah.
Like there is a musical note.
Balancing our chakras is so important.
Absolutely, and just the idea of it is all frequency. Everything is frequency from how we see and what we see. Even the idea of, I was explaining hertz to somebody a minute ago, and the idea that it is a cycle per second. We see at 30 cycles per second. That fluorescent light is flashing at 60. That's why it looks like it's always on.
Cool.
It's really flashing twice as fast as you can see. So that's why it looks like it's solid. If you took you took a camera at 60 hertz and pointed it at that light, you would see the flow of power across the tube. You'd see it moving.
You get into orbs?
Oh, yeah.
Light, that's energy.
Oh, yeah.
And orbs have changed into Bigfoot or vice versa.
Sure.
It's their matter changed into energy. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times I've seen orbs up at Joe Montana's vortex in Montana.
Wow.
And those orbs, your camera, you don't see them with your eyes, but your camera will get the picture because it has a better scope.
It's got a filter in it that,
wider.
depending on the camera and the make, maybe a little wider to the ultraviolet, maybe the variance of ultraviolet infrared.
You can get a picture of them.
Yeah.
You don't see them with your eyes until you see the picture. I seen one, a really good one out there in the camera that we was taking a picture with, and it had an image in it, had a design in it, which showed me there's an intelligence behind that. And then the one I seen up at the camp here in 2016, we witnessed this light about 3 or 4 inches long, like a fluorescent bulb. If it wasn't bright like that, it was just going through the trees. What do you do with that? It's a form of energy, but it's not like a streaking through. It's just floating through like it's studying or something. You don't know what it's going to do, so you don't know what to think about it. But nothing's really that foreign up there. Everything's different at our camp, Sierra Camp.
Yeah. And now, just out of curiosity, especially talking about frequencies, vocalizations, what range do most of the vocalizations occur in? Have there been found any infra or ultrasound qualities to Sasquatch vocalizations? Kind of like in the realm of elephant calls, things like that.
You have to have the right equipment to record that. And we were recording with cassette recorders in those days, so it only recorded what it could record. You have to have the right equipment to, and you'll only see it, you won't hear it.
Yeah.
But you need to know that, but we never even thought about that back in the 70s when these things were interacting with us.
Yeah, you were lucky you had a tape recorder that you could take out into the woods.
Exactly. Battery-operated cassettes, that's all you need. And it's limited, with those type of things.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling they can communicate in infrasound, because there's been times when we've been frozen in our steps up there where you just can't go anymore until you go backwards. And that's when one of them we know was behind this tree. It was sounding off, and we shoot out of the shelter, we'll see it run off. Bright moonlit night. Well, we step out of the shelter and start walking up towards that tree, and just got froze. And we couldn't go forward, like a force field, I call it.
Wow.
And backed off. You go backwards, but you couldn't go forward. I brought this up to a scientist. He says, I don't want to hear about your fear. Science can't deal with fear. It wasn't fear. We were over that by then. He said, well, it must be an infrasound or pheromones. Well, at the time, I thought, well, it must be infrasound because, it affects it's used by large animals.
Sure.
It affects humans. But now I find these things have a human component to them. And so the human component, there's a possibility it was pheromones, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
But I still stay with infrasound.
That would have to be a huge hit of pheromone to.
Yes, it would.
And especially now, if you were like a full-on trained tracker, hunter, things like that, I could see how maybe a pheromone hit might make you freeze in your tracks to think about something.
I'm sticking with infrasound.
Not in the realm of I physically can't move my body.
That's what it was. It happened to me again out in the woods up there when I was not even thinking about Bigfoot, and all of a sudden I just stopped. I couldn't move, and I started looking around, seeing what's doing this.
Were there other phenomena around the area? Was the area known for other things?
I saw a UFO up there once. I mean, just a big blue ball coming down. I lost it behind the trees, but definitely controlled. And there's a light I told you about a minute ago, and there was other things too. One time I heard a big whooming sound, it sounded like a huge tuning fork.
Wow.
In the daytime, we all look up, you can't see the source of it at all. A lot of things happen up there that's that gets you out of classical science.
Yeah.
Gets you into quantum science. And the fact that now the government says we can believe in aliens.
Yeah. It's permissible now.
Yeah, you couldn't talk about it 10 years ago. You've been put in a funny farm. So,
well, yeah.
So I talk about that now, and I think aliens have been coming in for eons, and they've messed with the genome of different species on this planet.
And that is we just got back from the MUFON conference. We heard from quite a few people about the star seeding program, about the idea of seeding humanity, seeding Earth, tinkering with genetic material, things like that. When it comes to Sasquatch and that, have you come across any stories in your investigations of, I guess, Sasquatch being alien?
Well, a lot of people think so, but they're not all the same, in my opinion, because there's different type of aliens. They've been on this planet, and they're doing different things.
Yeah.
They're all after this planet, and they're hoping we don't destroy it like we're doing. We're a warring species, and we got to get away from that. They're hoping we'll learn to love and have compassion, and we can get over this warring species thing, and then maybe we won't blow ourselves up again like we've done in the past.
It seems that way. Let's hope not. And with that in mind, how do we go about beginning protection for this animal, for these species?
They don't need protection, in my opinion.
They don't need protection?
No, we need protection.
All right. Get into that a little bit.
Well, I think we need protection. We're destroying the planet. We're doing things that we shouldn't be doing. We're killing each other. We're hurting each other. We're doing all the bad things, which we're not supposed to be that way. I think we're supposed to be more with compassion, love, and spreading that around. A lot of the masters taught that, so.
Oh, yeah.
That's the key to making things better. If we could all just learn that, I think we would stop being such a species that's destroying everything, and that would save the planet, really.
Yeah. Now, curiously, were you a cryptid enthusiast? Were you anything like that before you were invited to come up and go hunting at this camp?
No. None of us were. We didn't know what we were dealing with at the time. Underestimated everything we were dealing with at the time. But we were smart enough to start recording or had fun with it then, because we knew they weren't going to eat us or carry us away or something.
Sure.
So we were recording. And it wasn't until we took Al Berry up there, an investigative reporter with a master's degree in science. He was looking for who was tricking us. How could that happen? Because we all thought it was a hoax. Everybody did.
Sure.
But it wasn't, and he couldn't determine that by anything that went on. 8 miles in the wilderness, 8,700 feet elevation. It's just a really imposing place to get to. And it'd be ludicrous for anyone to go up there. And plus, they'd have to know when we're going.
Yes.
And to trick us. And you can't trick them either. We was trying to trick them. We'd get a picture, and they'd mess up with our camera traps or something, go around them or something like that. But no, none of us were Bigfoot enthusiasts or cryptozoologists, nothing like that. Hunters is all they were, and I became part of that group and started experiencing what they were experiencing. So we kept it kind of closed like that. We don't take people up there because it's a real phenomenal place.
Yeah. Now, how has this experience changed you, Ron? Do you find that your life is any different than it was before you began researching into this world? How have things evolved for you?
Let me laugh at that for a minute.
Please, enjoy.
It changes your life totally. I was raised in religious circles.
Same.
Christian, all that. So what I did is, first thing I did when I come out of the mountains, I started thinking, where'd giants come from? They're not supposed to be around like they are now. They're supposed to have been destroyed a long time ago, And so that got me into chasing it down. So I got into the Bible, but I'm not a religious person anymore, but I found out we're all spiritual, whether we like it or not.
That's right.
Energy, which we're all made of at the most minute level, cannot die. It continues on. So if you're a religious person, you can think, I'm going to go to heaven when I die, because there's two parts to our being, our physical part and our etherical part. And when you get into those, you realize the energy, which we're all made of, cannot die. Yet our body is going to change. It's going to change. It's going to die, and it's going to change forms. So that's basically the very root of what you go to is energy, frequency, and vibration. You get into Tesla and Einstein, all those old physics, they all, that's it.
Yeah.
So yet classical science doesn't seem to want to go there. It has to be everything that's measurable, predictable, physical, all that stuff. So when I started asking questions about, well, how far is it to the end of the universe if everything's measurable?
Yeah.
No, you have to conceive it. So to me, God and spirituality are synonymous. You have to believe it.
Yeah.
Because you'll never prove it.
Now, with that in mind, and especially with that in mind, with the fact of you did not begin this research with a bent or trope toward Sasquatch, cryptid, anything like that. How has this research changed you? Has it changed your faith? Not religion, but your faith.
No, I still have faith. I know that there's something going on besides what we can see, feel, and measure. That's, if you want to talk, say God, or call it God, but it's a high frequency energy.
Yeah.
And that's what's created us. We're very important people, human race is. I got into this because I understand that from a way I was raised in religious circles, that we are special. And yet you get into quantum physics, and what one man calls God, no one calls quantum physics.
Yeah.
It's Nikola Tesla, you know.
Yeah.
And Einstein says you find the frequency of anything, you can change its matter. You get into Paul Dirac, won the Nobel Prize in 1933.
Hutchison.
Matter and energy are interchangeable. And what is to say that these things can't change their matter to energy?
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Well, and we just did that a year and a half ago in a lab. We created matter from light.
Well, you can CERN in 2012 established that.
Yeah.
Matter turned into a particle turned into matter.
Absolutely.
Or
yeah, precisely. And that is a whole change of technology. That is
a whole change in your head.
Exactly.
And things you don't see energy, you only can sense it. So you can see matter.
Yes.
This matter changed into a particle which they could only detect. They couldn't see it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And I mean, even to the point of teleportation within a lab, teleporting light particles, everything that at least I grew up from 75 to now believing was science fiction is pretty well fact now.
It's really fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it is an incredible time to be alive. It's an incredible time to
agree with you.
To even just be involved in this research cursorily in the way that I am. I am not hip deep in the field like you. I talk to researchers. I read tons and watch a crap ton of documentary and things like that just to absorb as much data as I can. But even just seeing it from that point of view, I have seen massive moon-sized leaps in the last few years.
I think that's what the Mayan calendar was all about, 2012. We're changing into an area of a time of enlightenment.
Yeah.
Good time to be alive.
What do you see next for the world of cryptozoology, Ron, for somebody?
I see a lot more UFOs coming in, a lot more exposure to that, a lot more alien exposure. Bigfoot may be one of them, maybe, because more and more people are spotting them.
Josh is signing books.
I'm supposed to be on a panel here in a minute.
Yes. So let everybody know where they can go to keep up with your research, Ron, where they can go to buy new books, everything else.
My website, ronmoorehead.com, 10, M-O-R-E-H-E-A-D. And that's where my products are. I got 2 CDs that I've developed. One is narrated by Jonathan Frakes. It's an Albury story. It's downloadable or not. And then you got the other CD, which is me narrating. It's both about 40 minutes long with integrated sounds. And you got my books, which are hard copies or downloads.
Awesome.
RonMoorehead.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the time
during
this very, very busy conference.
My honor.
Appreciate it. It was truly my honor, Ron. Thank you. While you were online checking out all of the amazing work from Ron Moorehead, make sure to stop on by CuriousRealm.com. CuriousRealm.com is where you can find all the episodes. That's where you can follow, subscribe. That's where you can see all of our live event coverage from events like the second annual Dogman and Cryptid Conference. Come back after these commercial breaks, folks. We will get into more coverage from the second annual Dogman and Cryptid Conference right here in White Settlement, Texas, brought to you by the Paranormal Round Table. We'll be right back after this.